Gary Borger, with his combined talents as fly fishing instructor, angling author, fly tyer, and professor of biology, has become one of today's most respected fly fishermen. In this tape, Gary will share his experience and intimate knowledge of the sport with you. He'll discuss equipment and knots and show you how to cast and quickly locate the best places to fish. You'll learn proven methods for taking fish with dry flies, nymphs, and streamers, and how to avoid common angling mistakes. When you apply the concepts you learn in this tape to the waters you fish, you'll find yourself catching more and bigger trout.
Fly fishing is an exciting and productive way to take trout. And it's a lifetime sport in which you can become totally involved. All you need to get started is a rod and reel, a line, a leader, and some flies. Then there's the fun of learning about the fish and its food organisms, the satisfaction of tying your own flies to match the hatch, and the subtleties of casting and presentation and reading the water. Of course, there's the thrill when the fish takes the fly and the excitement of the fight and the gratification you get from releasing a nice fish like this to fight another day. Fly fishing began as a method for catching trout, but over the centuries it's come to encompass all other species. The modern fly fisher can angle for such diverse fishes as bass and bluegills or tarpon and bonefish. Really, the limits to fly fishing are the waters you fish. While I'll be fishing for trout in this tape, the concepts and techniques I show you can be readily adapted to other species. Artificial flies can be tied to directly imitate food items of the fish, or perhaps only generally suggest food items. The major food items of the fish are aquatic insects, crustaceans, and other fishes. The four major aquatic insects are mayflies, midges, caddisflies, and stoneflies. They spend the majority of their lives underwater and only a short period as a winged adult. You can quickly learn to identify the aquatic forms by simply picking up rocks from the stream and noting the insects clinging onto them. Here on this spring creek, there are abundant populations of mayflies. This is a mayfly nymph. Mayfly nymphs can be distinguished by the presence of only one visible pair of wing pads and gills along the sides of the abdomen. These insects can be found in all water types. Any fly that imitates a specific insect should be selected to match the size, shape, and color of the natural. This would be a good choice to match this mayfly nymph. At maturity, the nymph swims to the surface and the adult emerges. When such a hatch is in progress, there's a large amount of food either right on or just under the surface film, and the trout move up and feed eagerly. If the hatch is heavy, then the trout become selective and feed only on that insect. Other food items are ignored. Such selective behavior provides one of the great challenges of fly fishing, matching the hatch. During the time that the adult insect is crawling from its husk, it can't swim or fly away, and so it's very vulnerable. Now, because the trout has to get more energy from the food item that it's getting than energy required to catch that food item, it often takes these very vulnerable emergers. Often the secret to fishing to highly selective trout during a hatch is to fish with an emerger imitation. A simple soft hackle fly such as this is very effective during the hatch because it gives the impression of the rumpled appearance of the partially emerged adult. The fully emerged mayfly is called a dun because it often has gray-brown wings. The body is usually a dull brown, gray, olive, or yellow. This adult is easily recognized since it holds its wings upright over its back, giving it the appearance of a tiny sailboat. When you're selecting flies to imitate duns, you have to consider where they'll be fished. Flies to be fished in very riffly water should have plenty of hackle on them to keep them afloat. Since the choppy currents make it hard for the fish to see the fly clearly, such overdressing is not detrimental. But in slow, flat water, the fish has plenty of time to inspect the fly and can see it very well. Flies for this water must be a more accurate copy of the natural and should be dressed more delicately than fast water flies. Fish take the duns in the emergers with a strong rise that often leaves a bubble behind. They don't leave a bubble if they're taking nymphs just under the surface. When the hatch is going on, a rise with a bubble in it is a good target for your dry fly. Mayflies are the only aquatic insects that have two adult stages. The dun flies to the streamside vegetation where it rests for a period of from a few minutes to up to a few days. Then it molts, shedding its outer skin to become the sexually mature spinner. This stage has glassy wings and a shiny body. The spinners mate and the females drop to the water, lay their eggs, and die. As they do, their wings fall out to the sides. They're then called spent spinners. A fly pattern with hackle wound at the front and then trimmed top and bottom is an excellent match for the spent spinner. If the spinner fall is very heavy, the trout rise to them freely. However, because the spent spinners ride so low in the water, the trout's rise to them is very gentle, and often no bubble is left behind. Many anglers fail to notice the spinners in the film and misinterpret such rises as those of nymphing trout that are feeding just below the surface. Look to see if there are spent spinners flush in the film before you cast. Observation is one of the keys to success in fly fishing. Many times when you get to the river, there aren't any fish rising, and so it's not obvious where they are. In this case, you've got to be able to locate the places where fish are holding and feeding. Such places are called lies. All lies have to provide protection from swift currents. A sheltering lie, in addition, provides protection from predators. In a riffle like this, the obvious sheltering lie is the deepest part, right down in there. Also, the many weed beds that we see in here can provide shelter for the fish. Feeding lies are places where fish can find food, but they don't get much protection from predators. This flat that I'm standing in is a very good place for fish to move into and feed. But an even better place is across on the other side of this current tongue where all the little eddies are swirling out. Because as food comes floating down the current, it'll swirl out into these small eddies, and the fish can hold beside the fast current and pick off all that food coming down. Prime lies are places where fish can find food and protection from predators simultaneously. In riffly water like that, where the surface is all broken, fish feel protected because they can't see out well, predators can't see in well. If the riffle is more than about, knee deep, then I'd consider the whole thing a prime lie. However, you have to remember that fish are not going to expend a lot of energy to come to the surface through all that fast water. If the water is more than about waist deep, I would consider it a prime lie for nymph fishing, but not really a prime lie for dry fly fishing. If it's anywhere from knee deep up to waist deep, the fish will come up through that, and I would consider that a prime lie for dry fly fishing. You have to know where lies are, not only to find the fish, but to plan your strategy in playing the fish. And you should be able to figure out where the best lies are, because the best lies, the one that has the most food, the best protection, and so on, will always hold the biggest fish. Earlier today, I sampled this riffle and found lots of these pale morning dun mayfly nymphs. As you can see, there's no mayflies hatching now, so this would be a very good time to fish with an imitation of these nymphs. Mayfly nymphs are not very good swimmers, so a very effective way to fish them is to simply cast them upstream and allow them to drift back to you at the same speed as the current. You can do this quite nicely with a roll cast.